So hello and welcome everyone to Oceanids Sounding Board. I'm Nigella Hilgarth, the president of Oceanids, and it's my great pleasure this lecture to be able to introduce you to today's speaker. But before I do that, if you are not familiar with Oceanids, we are the oldest supporting group for the university, for UCSD, and we support students through grants and awards. And we also have a lot of interesting events. Please check out our website. And I also want to let you know that Sounding Board is throughout the academic year. We have 7 lectures in total, and they at the moment are all on Zoom, but hopefully we'll get back to having them in person at the faculty club as well before too long. And without further ado, I want to introduce today's speaker, Kim SignoretPaar. Kim is, as some of you may not know, but may guess by today's lecture, she's a highly distinguished photographer, and we're very lucky to have her this morning. I know a lot of you know her in other capacities, but you may not know that she started photography when she was 13. At least she got an award, I think, when she was 13, for, which is really very impressive. And then she went to the University of Iowa. She then came west in 1980, had a very distinguished career in other areas, in publishing and public relations and fundraising. And then in 2009, she turned back to photography, and her talent has really shone through. And in 2014, she won the very important award at the San Diego County Fair for Best in Show for photography. And this is an international photography competition, which is very, very hard to win. And so that's, I think, if we didn't know before, we realized that Kim was really, really good at what she does. And she has had several exhibitions, and she also teaches iPhone photography. And I've actually learned an awful lot for her. And without any further ado, I'm going to ask Kim to share her screen and start today's talk.
So hello, everyone. Many familiar faces, and I just want to let you know if you'll stay muted. I think everyone's muted right now during the talk, and then we'll have an opportunity to do question and answer at the end. And if you want to put them in the chat, that's okay. Okay, so Nigella, is that showing?
Yes, that's beautiful. Wonderful.
Okay, all right. So I've focused this presentation on some 10 areas, 10 steps that you can take to make better photos with your cell phone. And just as a precursor, at the end of this is my email, and you can have a PDF of this entire presentation. It's also being recorded. It is being recorded, right, Nigella?
Yes, it is being recorded right now.
Okay, all right. So, there's a recording, but you can also get a PDF, which might be helpful to you. So, let's see here. All right, I gotta arrange my screen so I can see everything. Okay. So where are we going with cell phone photography? One of the things that is becoming increasingly apparent is the camera on your cell phone is just a new type of a camera. You also happen to be able to make phone calls with it, but it is a new camera, and the rules of composition stay the same, and how we get to the final picture is changing, because the technology that they're building into these phones and the cameras is pretty amazing. It's smart, it's computational, it's artificial intelligence, it's point and shoot with less and less light. It's fun. It's fun, and you have it with you all the time. And there's easy and faster editing and sharing photos with our cell phones. So see. Okay, there we go. So the next frontier with cell phones is going to be resolution, because that's where we find the difference between what I sometimes call real cameras, real digital single lens reflex DSLRs. The real camera and the cell phone camera is in resolution. But with the right light and with the right processing of your photographs, you can make amazing photographs with the 12 megapixels that are currently in cell phone cameras. I was just checking. I have an 11 Pro Max, so I haven't moved up to a 12 or a 13, and they still are at 12 megapixels. So they have not yet gone the next step with the megapixels, because the processor is pretty small in those phones. Just to give you a look, Canon mirrorless, the R6 is at 20, which everybody thought was a little bit on the low side. The R5 is up to 45, but they've just released a state-of-the-art new camera, and they went back down to 24.1. So they're doing more with fewer megapixels. So it's an evolving area. And the one difference between a phone and a real camera really is in that resolution, but that's when you print and when you go large. If we're staying in a web environment, and if we're staying with sharing and just looking at photographs, you really don't see the difference often. So, okay. So making the phone easier. This is just truly amazing. So to do long exposures on a phone is super easy, no tripod required. The tilt shift, there's some editing tools that I'm going to show you as far as how, when you're with architecture in particular and you're shooting, oftentimes you can see those two photographs right there. You can get this weird distortion because you're shooting up into it. And with the editing tools, you can straighten it in editing. And then portrait, there's a portrait mode. And just so you know, I'm speaking from it as an iPhone user, but all these things also can be found on Androids. So, and then panoramas. You can do amazing panoramas pretty quickly and pretty easily. So here are 10 cell phone photography tips. And number one, first and foremost, play and experiment. I can't emphasize this enough. Just do it. Just use your phone, use it, take pictures, change things. You can't break it unless you really drop it very hard or you throw it or something. You can't break it by pushing the buttons on it. So just first and foremost, play and experiment. Be like a kid. You know, kids are great with technology because they just try and they get it to work, and then, you know, it's like magic. So be like a kid with your camera. So the next thing is to clean the lens for crystal clear photos. I carry around with me all the time. In fact, it's in my pocket right now. I carry around this little photo lens cleaner cloth. And so I really recommend that you are conscious of fingerprints on your lens and clean, because if you ever see your photographs looking like the left side and you're like, what's going on here? More than likely than not, you have a thumbprint or a fingerprint on your lens and you need to clean it up. So then the number 3 tip that I have is don't use the flash on your phone. The flash really is it's too much. Almost always the flash is too much. Maybe once in a while you might want to use it, but for the most part, turn it off. And in this presentation, it's just not, okay, there we go. In this presentation, when you get the PDF, it's got from the iPhone how you can turn it off. You need to look for this little up arrow in your camera, click it, and then it opens up these other controls here, and this is where the flash control is. And you click, so you see the arrow. Is everybody seeing my mouse? Can you see my mouse?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So the mouse, so right here, when you click here, then it will, the default setting is auto and tap off. And just know that when it's in gold, that means it's an active control. So off needs to be highlighted in yellow or gold. All right, so the fourth tip I have is set the focus to ensure your subject is always sharp. Now, this is with a caveat because our phones are really smart. And so when you go to look at something, the phone tries to focus the best it can. This is an Android or an iPhone to get the best focus for you. And sometimes you can't do better. So, but it's worth it if you're really interested in a particular area. And the way you do it is that you touch your camera, you touch the screen of your phone, looking at when it's with the camera on, and wherever you touch the screen, that is what's going to be in focus. So you look and see if you like what you see. And if you don't, you can always just move your camera down or turn off the camera and come and turn it back on. It'll reset and it'll do its own focus. So sometimes I try to do the focus and I'm like, oh, this isn't better. This is, in fact, I liked it before. So I'll just go with the camera's focus. But sometimes it really is what I want, particularly when I'm shooting very close up flowers and things like that, that I really want to have a specific focus. So then along with focus is the exposure. So it's really hard to see here, but here's my mouse. There's a yellow square right here, and there's a little sun that's on a line. And on the iPhone, I'm not quite sure how it works on the Android, but I'm sure that it's there. They've got something like this. You just hold it down and it locks and you get this little, oops, I didn't mean to do that. Oh, where did we go? Oh, darn. Sorry. What happened? Okay, hold on. Just a second. Sorry about that. Okay. Break my concentration here. Okay. All right. Okay, so there we go. We're back. Okay, so when you hold it down, you get this AE/AF lock at the top. That means automatic exposure, automatic focus lock. So where the square is, that's where it's focused, and that's where it's taking the readings for the exposure. If there's a dark or light spot in your photograph that you want to make sure that's the exposure, you go to that part of the screen and you touch that, and then it will expose for that. Experiment with it. You'll see as you touch different parts of the screen, you'll see how the exposure changes. When you hold it down until you get that lock code, then it's set and it's not going to change if you move your camera just a little bit. And then you can take your finger and move this little sun that's right here. The arrow's pointing to the sun. You can move it up and down to change the exposure. You can make it lighter or darker. And I use this a lot with nighttime photography. Because what happens with nighttime photography is it makes the blacks more gray, and so it's trying to lighten up all the blacks. But in nighttime photography, I want the blacks to be black. So this is something I really use a lot for nighttime photography. With the newer cameras, there is another way of doing this. I'm not going to show it right now, but there's another way of also getting into the exposure and playing with the exposure. But this is on iPhones, and Androids have a similar kind of thing. There's this way of on the screen of your phone, when you have the camera up, to hold it and then to change the exposure. And it's really the only, it's what's really needed to do nighttime photography. Okay, so let's see. So this is a photograph that I was just in the Netherlands. I just got back from the Netherlands and I just took this photograph, and I had to play around with it to get this to be the way I wanted it, to adjust the exposure. What also happens is you get some kinds of little blue reflective lights here and there. There's, you know, odd things that end up being in the black that you want to get rid of. And so the spots were removed with the Touch Retouch app, which I'm going to show you at the end of the presentation. So this is what you can get with nighttime photography. And this is without a flash, so I don't do flash. Also, the newer iPhones, they'll do long exposures on dark. Sometimes I go with that. You have to hold it very steady, and sometimes I turn it off and I just use the existing light. You have to play around with it and experiment with it. So number 6 is learn to use the camera modes of your camera. And this is in camera. So this is the camera app, and on the bottom there is video. There's also slow-mo to the left, photo, portrait, square, pano. So each one of those is a different mode, and you should play around with them. The photo is the standard one, and when I first started using my cell phone, I would end up shooting square photographs, and it's like, why? What's going on? What's happened? Well, what happened was at the bottom, somehow my finger had moved along these set of options here, and it had ended up on square. So, and sometimes now I'll find that I'm in video. It's like, video. So it's slipped into video. So be conscious of where this is set when you're taking your photographs. And if you've always been curious about why it just does this weird, bizarre stuff, it's because this somehow you've moved, or putting it in and out of your pocket or whatever has moved this selection here. And photo is the standard one. And then portrait has a lot. If you have more than one lens on your camera, there's a portrait mode that you can work with. And that's what this vase here on the left, the background, you can work with it. So the background goes out of focus and the actual object is in focus. It's set up really to do people, but you can use it with flowers and all sorts of things. And then the bottom photograph of the railroad, it's the Hamburg Railroad station, or it's actually a bridge outside of the Hamburg Railroad station. That is a pano. And there's a whole, I'm not going to teach you today how to do a pano, but there are lots of YouTube videos on how to do a pano. And you have to practice how to do it, but it's really worth it. And I will say there tends to be a curvature to panos. And what I do is I do the best I can to get what I want, and then I crop such that I crop as much of the curvature out. It's really hard to get rid of all the curvature, but you can get it so that you can crop most of the curvature out of a pano. Okay, so so now number 7. Okay, so this is these slides are these screenshots are very much from an iPhone perspective, but I know the Androids have all of this also. They have amazing editing capabilities. I think one of the Androids go one of the ways to do it is to go to Google Photos, and out of Google Photos you can actually go straight into Snapseed on an Android. which you can't do on an iPhone. You have to use Snapseed as a separate app. So that's kind of an advantage of an Android. But there's lots of editing tools on the Androids. So, but from an iPhone perspective, you go into the photo app, which is the photo library where all of your photographs are stored. You bring up the photograph you want to edit, and then up in the upper right, there's a little, where this arrow is right here, there's a little edit. You click that, and it opens up this window. And one of the things I do on almost any photograph that I want to share is I will hit this magic wand, which is the autofocus. The icon of a magic wand is a kind of a universal icon that lots of different apps use. It's like magic. So you just click it, and it makes all sorts of changes to the photograph based on the magic of Apple, what Apple thinks the photograph needs. And so, where's my mouse? Here it is. Okay, so along here to the right, you see this big red arrow to the right. If you go over here and you use your phone to move these icons to the left, there's all sorts of different things that can be edited. That auto magic wand has changed many of them. And you can see right here, I'm losing my mouse, there we go. So here in this one, it's a little bit on the gray white side, so it's gone to the left, to the negative. Here it's gold, so it's gone to the right. So each one has whether it's gone to the left or to the right of the value, and the values keep going. And I'm just going to bring up my phone here, my camera, and I will tell you what some of the things that you can change are. Okay, so the first one is exposure. The next one is brilliance. The next one is highlights, shadows, contrast, brightness, black point, saturation, vibrance, warmth, tint, sharpness, definition, noise reduction, and finally a vignette. When Apple added all of these different things into the edit program of the Photos app, I, for the most part, stopped using Snapseed as much as I used to, because you can do just about anything you want to on your phone to a photograph with these different factors that you can edit. So but just to start for all of you, as a first step, just try the magic wand and see what happens. And then on the bottom, you'll see right here. So this one right here, I hope you can see my cursor. This one left, this is for all those values, okay, and it's got the little gold dot underneath it. The next one is filters, which I'm going to talk about in just a minute. And then on the right is the crop. And this is the crop. And so this screen now is activating the crop. And this also was amazing when Apple brought these new crop functions in. It's been about a year or so that we've had all these new functions. You can, when you go into crop, if the software recognizes that the horizon line is really off, it will automatically straighten a horizon line. Now, sometimes it identifies a horizon line that isn't a horizon line, and it makes the picture really kind of silly. So you can reset it. Now, what you need to know is here, this hamburger-like symbol right here that has the line through the middle, this is for the horizon. So this is the one, and if you are on that one, then there's a point that you can reset. And then the one to the right of it, and I keep losing my mouse. Okay, to the right of it, this one is the vertical tilt. So if you click this one and go and take your finger and go back and forth on the grid below, it will change the vertical tilt of the photograph. And this is where you can straighten a building. And then the next one here is pretty amazing. So let's say that you are not straight on taking a photograph straight on a surface, and it's skewed a little bit, and you want to make it so that it's straight because you're kind of off a little bit. You can change the horizontal tilt of the photograph. So it's the horizon line, the vertical tilt, and the horizontal tilt. Then up at the top, so and what happens, what we're in crop right now, those are positioning, but crop, you see the white box around here? So that is the crop. You can take any side of the crop and you can move it around and you can change the crop of the photograph. Up here in this little set of boxes right here, when you activate that, it will give you the proportions. So if you want to keep the original proportion of the photograph, you can go to that. And then when you drag any side of it, it'll stay in that proportion. The default is to be freeform. So the default is that you can just move any side and you can make any shape that you want. And then there are other proportions in there, and they are look at my phone here. It's square, it's 9 by 16 or 16 by 9, which is the proportion of a TV screen for the most part. 4 by 5, 5 by 7, 3 by 4, 3 by 5, and 2 by 3. So, so a 2 by 3, for example, is a 4 by 6 image. So you can then set it so that your cropping, no matter what size you drag, will stay within that proportion. Then on the left-hand side here, this is where you can flip it. So let's say you took a photograph and it was supposed to be horizontal, but somehow it ended up being vertical, and you need to, you need to get it so it's horizontal. You can use this to flip it around. And the other one to the left of that, you can actually flip the image. So what was on the right can go on the left, and what was on the left can go on the right. So you can do that. I think I've covered. And then the little 3 dots show up in all the edit menus, and I'm going to get into that a little bit later. That's where some apps that you've added to your phone, you can activate them and still stay within the photo library. Let's see here. Okay. So now this is kind of fun. You can, this is the filters. So if you remember what I said earlier, the center one right here, this is in the Photos app. This is, you're editing this photo, and in the center are these 3 little circles. So these are where the filters are, and there's all sorts of different filters here. So when you edit your photograph, you can experiment with all the different filters, and you can turn your photograph into a black and white. And there are 3, and on the iPhone currently, there are 3 black and white filters. You can also, if you want to, shoot the camera in those filters. So you can go, now this set of 3 images here are from the camera app. And so what you find is currently, now from the older phone, I think this is true for all the phones with the latest operating system. If you have the latest operating system, there's a little caret here at the top, and you click that caret and it becomes gold. So the next image right here becomes gold, and it opens up all these controls down here. And if you move your finger from right to left so that you get to the furthest icon on the right, that's the filter. So then when you click this filter icon here, you get this screen, And then you can choose the filter. So you can choose mono, or I think it's silver tone and noir. Those are the three, black and white. So you could choose mono. And now when you're taking your photographs, you're actually taking black and white photographs, and you can see what they're going to look like in black and white as you're taking them. And I did this a month or so ago on a trip that I was on. It was really a lot of fun because I could actually see as I was taking the photographs what the values and the lights and shadows and whatever as far as how I was taking the photographs. So, but what's also neat about this is that the photograph is showing with a black and white filter, but actually as it goes into your photo library, in the photo library, you can go in and you can edit. You can go back over here on the left in the photo app and edit, and you can take it back to original, and it'll be a fully color photograph. So you shot it on the phone with the black and white filter on, but the camera is capturing all of the color. So it's actually still there. So you can recover the color later. You can see what the image looks like with full color or any of the other filters, or you can keep it in black and white. So just a point here, because I didn't explain it in the very beginning. Using both the Android and the iPhone and doing this edit, it's called non-destructive editing, which means that there is an image, the original image that you took, that is sitting in your phone, and as you do the edits in the photo app, it is making those edits to that image, but that image is still sitting there. The original image is still sitting there, and you don't get, I call it baked in. You don't get all the edits baked into the image until you export the image out of the photo library. So when you export it, either to share it, to post it on a website, to save it on your hard drive, when you export it out of your camera, out of your photo library on your phone, when you export it out, it has all the edits baked into it as a JPEG. And in that JPEG that you've exported out, you can't get back to the original photograph. That JPEG has all those edits in it. It's baked in. It's all there. Only on your phone, and if you get really into this and you know how to move the originals from your phone to another software, editing software on your laptop, you'll have the original. But otherwise, when you move it out of your phone through exporting it, the edits are baked in. That's great because if you make some edits that you don't like, you can always go back to the original and start all over again. So, okay, let's see, anything else on this? No, that's pretty much it on that one. So number 9, this is something that I like very much, and I set on my phone, that I like to have the grid on my camera for the rule of thirds. So I have this permanently on my camera, so I can line things up. It also helps me with the horizon line. So when I'm shooting something, it really helps me to know if the horizon line is straight when I'm taking a photograph, because I have the grid. And the way you can turn the grid on is you go into settings, camera, grid. So that's something that you do on your phone to set the grid, so it's there all the time. And then finally, number 10 is to focus. One of my recommendations for better photographs is to really focus on one subject, to simplify your compositions. When you're in crowded situations and you're just taking a picture of all this craziness, it doesn't necessarily make the best photograph. Now, sometimes I was just in a workshop last night or the night before, and it was a festival. It was street photography at a festival, and it was a very busy kind of photograph. But there was a child almost kind of in the center, a little bit to the right, there was a child looking at the photographer, and the light was on that child's face. And in all this craziness, there was something to focus on in the photograph. So you need to make your photographs where there's some place in the photograph that the eye can go to, that it can make sense of the photograph. Or you need to just really concentrate on one subject. So there's all sorts of different things that you can read about composition, and this is just one of the takeaways that I'm giving you right now. So now, okay. So two of the most used apps on my phone are Touch Retouch and Distressed FX. So Touch Retouch costs a whopping $1.99. So, and I can't tell you how phenomenal it is. It is the best program I've ever used to take out telephone wires, because it has in the programming, that it knows when you take your finger on that photograph and take it along a telephone wire, it knows that it's the wire. It finds the wire and it takes the wire out. It's amazing. It also does a great job on other kinds of things to take them out. But what you need to know, and this is, this example right here, this green whatever box kind of thing it is, it works if it's surrounded clearly by what you want to put in its place. So that's when it works. But if there's busyness around it and you just want to take something out, it can be really hard to remove things in a busy kind of photograph. Except with this program, taking out these wires, oh my God, it is the best. It is absolutely the best. And I work with it to try to do other things too, but it's phenomenal. So, and what you can do is that those three little dots that I reference in the upper right, when you are in Edit and you touch those three little dots, once you've installed this on your phone and given it access to your photo library and to your camera, once it has access, it will sit there so that when you do the three little dots, it brings it up. You see Retouch, Touch Retouch. You activate it for that photograph. You do what you want. You save it. It will save it back into your photo library on that exact photograph. So it will be there, and it just works seamlessly. So then the other one that I use is Distressed FX, and this gives you some fun background filters and colors, and it just adds some fun stuff to photographs, and I really like playing with it. And I will tell you that in the publicity for this and on the front of this presentation, the big sculptures that are in Borrego Springs on the far left, the photograph on the far left, that background, that really colorful background, came from Distressed FX. And it's a great app to play around with. And it says here it's free. I can't remember if I paid for it or not, but it says here it's free and offer in-app purchase, so I'm not quite sure. Right now I'm using it on my phone. There's never been a time that it's asked me to pay for anything, so I'm not quite sure what that is, but I'm using it. So if take a screenshot of this or take a photograph of this. This is my email address. Please email me and I will send you a PDF copy of this presentation, and then you can have all those slides and you can see everything and slowly look at it. Also, this is, as we said earlier, this is being recorded, but I think having a PDF of it could be really helpful. So I'm gonna I want to take you back. I want to show you. Okay, this is what I mean. This first image right here, that came out of the Distressed, out of that app that I was just talking about. This photograph is a very close-up and cropped in photograph of a flower at Balboa Park, but there's no filters on there. That's just working with the editing program and going close in. I did do some removal of some pollen dust in the center of it, but it's no special filters. And then this was the trip that I took that I was shooting in black and white from my cell phone camera. And then this photograph on the far right, that's low light that I used, what I was talking about for low light shooting, and that's obviously Pecker. So I'm gonna stop share. And I am open to any and all questions. You can unmute yourself.
Kim, that was a wonderful talk with so many good, useful pointers. Thank you so much. I'm sure we do have lots of questions.
I've got one.
Is that Sharon? Sharon?
Yeah.
What's your question?
So I have tried, to transfer photos from my iPhone 11 to my Windows-based computer, and it used to go fine, but now the file type is .heic. Do you know anything about how to overcome that handicap?
So,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So yes, it's a new file format that Apple came up with, and actually it'll probably show up in other places too. It's high efficiency something. Anyway, it makes a smaller file than a JPEG, and it actually has better qualities to it. So I use Lightroom as my editor on my desktop, and so Lightroom recognizes it. There might be some other editing programs that recognize it, but then it's not as recognizable as a JPEG. When you have a JPEG, it just, a JPEG is recognized, it's shareable, it opens anywhere. So what you can do if you don't want to work with it, you can go into the settings of your phone for your camera, and you can turn it off, and you can go back to JPEG.
Oh, okay.
So you can go into settings. I'm just going to do it right now and step you through it. When it first happened, I did this, but now I'm working with the file because it does give you a better file. But you have to be able to have something to work with it. Okay, where's my camera?
Yeah, I don't have any of those intermediary.
Yeah, exactly.
Editors.
I'm finding. I have to find my camera to tell you what. Okay. Sorry, I'm not going too fast. I'm not finding my camera to make changes. So you have to go, there it is. Okay, it's under music. It's in the group with music and TV. So you go into settings and you go down till you get to your camera, and you open up your camera, and then it is, where is it? Formats. Oh, it's at the top. It's at the top. It's formats. And the default is high efficiency. And the second one is most compatible. So if you go to most compatible, you'll go back to JPEGs.
Thank you so much. This is a terrific session. I've gotten so much out of it already. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, next question. Sylvia?
Yes, I'm not quite sure about number 8 show when you said when you want to change a photo from your photo library to have, you take it out and you change it, how you can conserve it in the library in the original form.
Okay, so it's just there. It's there. The only way you can get back to it is if you go back into edit, and in the right-hand lower corner, it says revert to original or revert.
Ah, okay.
And if you click revert, it'll take you back to the original.
Now, can I take it out of the photo library, put it on my desktop, and can I change it there on my desktop?
With other kinds of tools, yes.
Oh, okay. Okay,
And the trick is if you export it out of the photo library to your desktop, it will take those changes with it. So if you want the original, you have to revert down to the original and then export it, and it'll export the original.
Can you make a copy of the original and then work on the copy
Yes,
on the phone?
you can do that. You can make
Okay.
you can make all of the edits. You can make a copy. You can make a duplicate in your phone. So the way you did, I don't recommend doing that a lot because you don't really want to have a lot of different versions. It gets
Yeah.
very confusing. But here, I will tell you, if you go here and you go to, so when you open up, when you go to your photo app, the photo library app, you touch a photograph from all of them. So you have it there. Edit is in the upper right-hand corner. In the lower left-hand corner is the box with the arrow pointing up. That's the export box. That means you're going to send it somewhere. You're going to do something with it. When you touch that, you get all these options.
Okay.
And one of them is to duplicate. And it's to duplicate it, so it will duplicate it in your library. So then you can pick one and you can take it back to the original and you can leave the edits in the duplicate or revert, either way. You have two copies.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can do it and I've done that. When I've wanted to keep the edits, but I want to try another set of edits. So I will duplicate it and then I'll go back to the beginning and I'll do a whole nother editing on it. So, but just be careful because if you get too many variations, it's really confusing, which is why I do a lot of my editing in Lightroom because it's easier to organize it over there. But yes, you can do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there
Yes.
any differences? I'm sorry, may I?
Yes, Julia. Yes.
Is there any differentiations or I don't know, what is duplicate, what is copy?
Okay, copy means when you do copy, that means if you go to your email and you touch, or you go to a document that you've opened up on your phone and you touch it, you can paste a copy of the photograph. It's the concept of copy anywhere that you
Copy
copied it
paste. Yeah.
to like a little,
Text.
yeah, like text, you've copied it to this place here, this holding place. And when you go to another application, you paste it. That's what a copy is. A copy is cut and paste, cut and paste. A duplicate is you've actually made a duplicate image.
Okay, so when I copy in my library, that means I can use it somewhere else, not in the library.
Right, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Right, exactly. Yeah, the duplicate is that you end up with a second image in your library.
Okay, thank
Jane?
you.
Yes, I was asking again about this high efficiency versus JPEG.
Yeah.
And this is the first I've heard of that. So how do you keep most of your photos stored? In which format do you use in your files?
So I do the high energy. I switched to the high energy. I did for a long time just, go to most compatible, but I import my cell phone photographs into Lightroom on my desktop, and I have a whole very complicated catalog on my desktop in Lightroom, and they sit there in the high energy, and Lightroom knows how to work with them and how to let me edit them on my desktop.
Well, is a high efficiency mean it's not as many pixels and it's not as good resolution?
It actually is a JPEG. So this is really a good, because it's what the 12 and 13 iPhone have done. The 12 and 13 iPhone are now letting us have raw images. So this is a concept that for photographers that shoot DSLRs, we shoot DSLRs with a raw image, which means we have an image that has all of the digital information in it, and it can't be shared. it has to be worked on in an application and edited, and then a JPEG created. And the JPEG is a condensed, compressed form of that photograph that then can be shared. And depending on how you create that JPEG, it either can be very small and low resolution, or it can be very large and very detailed resolution. So cameras that shoot JPEGs are actually doing editing in the camera to create the JPEG.
That you
So
specify, the resolution that you specify, right?
right, exactly. Now, for an iPhone, they don't give you any of those choices. It just creates the JPEG. And so in creating the JPEG, the iPhone is really good at sharpening and brightening and creating this wonderful JPEG that most of us are very happy with the JPEG that we get out of our phone cameras. When you take it on to do more editing with it, it starts to degrade over time because you're editing on this compressed JPEG. But for the most part, we really love those JPEGs. So so the new high efficiency file format does a better job of compressing into a smaller file than the JPEG. Supposedly the technology of doing the high efficiency is better than the JPEG technology, and you get a smaller file with more information packed into it. So when you take that high efficiency file into something like Lightroom, you have more data there to edit in Lightroom or someplace else.
So
And
there's raw and there's JPEG and high efficiency.
Exactly.
But if you really want to preserve all of the resolution, you want I have a raw files. I used to, my other cameras, my regular cameras, I keep raw and, another format like JPEG.
Exactly.
It'll save both. So I don't want to lose that.
Until the 12, Apple would not give us a raw file. So you couldn't get a raw, not from the native camera. You could put a third-party camera on your iPhone, and then you could shoot raw with an iPhone. But the Apple would not give us a raw file until the 12. The 12 is the first.
I never bought an iPhone until the 12 came out, and I bought it because the cameras were getting, had all that extra thing. So I do have, I don't know which one that I was just looking for how you keep what you file them under. Most of in your files are HPE, the high efficiency.
Right. Until I get, so I don't have a 12. When I get a 12, I'll probably be saving the raw images and the high efficiency. I'll probably do both, the high efficiency and the raw, once I get a
high efficiency.
A new camera, a new phone, it's the same.
Yeah. Or otherwise, up to now it's been raw and JPEG because, JPEGs have their use, but you want that data there.
Right, exactly. Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah, Martha.
Is there a conversion tool that takes a JPEG and puts it into extra
high efficiency?
Yeah.
Not really. It's something that Apple has in their native camera that it will do it for you, high efficiency. I know of no. I don't, it's in the creation of the photograph. They do high efficiency.
I use something called GIF.
Yeah.
Do you know what that is?
It's a GIF it's an editing program, right? On your desktop?
Yeah. And
GIF. Oh, a GIF file type.
Conversion and editing.
Okay.
So you edit the thing in some, I am thinking raw format, and then it converts. If you want a JPEG, you get a JPEG. If you want a PDF, it'll make a PDF.
Yep, exactly. Well, you only, until recently, out of your iPhone, you only got JPEGs. So, but now the high efficiency. So I don't know if GIF will take the high efficiency and let you work with it.
I don't think so. How is it? HEIC. HEIC. Oh, I've seen it. And now I know. Thank you. I
Yeah.
now know what it is.
Yeah, HEIC.
Hmm,
Yeah. And
interesting.
most of you are probably, because it's the default, most of you with newer iPhones are probably shooting with HEIC, but you don't know the difference because you're not really moving those photos out of your phone to another editing program, so it doesn't really
Right.
matter. And when you send it, when you export it to like a email or a website or whatever, that exportation process makes a JPEG. So when it exports out of your phone, it becomes a JPEG. So you're probably using HEIC and don't even know it. So, but and it's fine. There's no problem.
What about all those when you snap a photo, it shows you a couple of seconds before and then sometimes a couple of seconds. I'm not sure what it's doing.
Yeah, and I don't use that. I think I shut that off.
Yeah, I'd
So
I have to make sure I have to make
that's a
it.
good question, Martha, and I don't really know because I prioritize faster smart H. I don't adapt. Yeah, I'd have to look into that because I think wherever that was, I shut it off. So
Yeah, yeah, it's one of those symbols. And I guess you said it in the settings rather than each
yes,
time.
yeah, yeah.
And
Oh,
that's-
and the other trick I'd like to, you're reminding me of the other trick. That many of you probably are shooting live on an iPhone,
Right,
which means that you're getting little video clips. All your photographs are actually little video clips.
right, annoying.
Right.
And it can be annoying if you don't want it, right? So it's really marvelous if you want to do a long exposure because you can turn those little video clips into these wonderful creamy photographs. But I recommend I should add that into this
Yeah,
talk.
yeah.
I recommend turning it off. And the thing is, the default on the iPhone camera is to have it on all the time. So you may start, you may have your camera on, you turn it off. It is, just so you know what we're talking about, it is, if you turn your camera on, it's in the upper right-hand corner. It looks like a target practice thing, and it's,
Right.
if it has a line through it, it's turned off. If it's active, the live gold box shows up in the top center, but you can touch it and put a line through it and turn it off so that you just get a single still photograph. But what happens when you turn off your camera and you go back, it resets it so it's on again. So it always resets it to be on again. The way to permanently change that is to go into camera settings. So you go into setting, you go into camera, and there's something called preserve settings. So it's preserve settings. It's kind of towards the top, preserve settings. And this is kind of a hard thing to kind of wrap your head around. But if your camera is set up with it turned off, so there's a line through it, so it means no live photos. And then at the bottom of preserve settings, it has live photo, and you click it on so it shows green. It preserves the live photo setting rather than automatically reset to live photo when it's turned on.
And it's the same with Flash.
Yes. Yes.
So you have to do it, you have to execute it in the app, in the photo, in
The settings of the settings of the camera.
So they don't let you in settings do it individually.
Not permanently. I don't know that Flash, let me see, Flash.
Flash is like that, and you have to fool around with it to get rid of it.
Somehow mine's off and I don't see it here in
Well,
preserve.
maybe some of the settings.
I think the settings hold on Flash. Yeah, it doesn't, I don't think it resets Flash. Once you set Flash off, it holds. But on live, it resets it. I think it's Apple's way of using more memory
Hmm.
so that they then can sell you more storage because you run out of, you need more storage soon.
Is there a way?
I think it's
Is
it's
there a way to get rid of the live settings with all your original?
I haven't figured it out yet, Martha. I don't know how to do it.
Some homework.
I don't, so what you can do when you go into your photo app, what you need to, when you go into your photo app, you can look at, when you go in the photo app at the bottom, there's a thing called albums. So you go to albums and then you page up in albums and you can go to all your media types and they put all your live photos in and they create for you. And you can see how many live photos are stored on your phone.
I think we're running out of time, so I just wondered if there were one or two more quick questions.
Yeah.
Paused. Yeah.
Quick question. I think, Kim, you mentioned earlier there's those little blue spots
Yeah.
that appear in bright light
Yep.
photos in particular. Is there an app, something to get rid of those?
Yeah, so I go into that touch retouch and I get
Okay.
rid of it that way. That's exactly what I use. Yeah.
All right, good.
Yeah.
Thank
And-
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And where is this session going to be recorded? Where can we repeat it for ourselves?
So
It's going to be on the Oceanids YouTube channel. So if you go onto YouTube and you just type in UCSD Oceanids, it will come up.
Oh,
It's our sounding board YouTube
Okay.
platform. And
Excellent.
it'll take a few weeks, but it'll be up.
also, we don't need to get the email. I mean, I thought we had to call the email or email.
Well, so there's two different things. There's the video recording of today. There's a video, but also I'm going to create a hard PDF, a hard file that I'll email you and you can page through it. And it's not a video. It'll be a hard PDF from my presentation. So there's two ways that you can get information. So if you get my email is KSPAR AA, that's not ARR, not ARR. It's AA, PAAR at outlook.com. If you email me, I'll send you the PDF and I'll do that right away. But then the video, so you can watch me talk, that'll be up on the YouTube.
Okay.
Thank you. You're a
Thank
font
you
of
very
knowledge. You really are.
Kim, thank you so much. That was a wonderful and incredibly helpful discussion and talk today. Thank you very much. And just want to let everybody know that we have an amazing speaker, Dr. Edith Egar, who is going to be in December, the first Thursday in December. And she is a psychologist and a motivational speaker and writer. But what makes her so different and so unusual is that she is a Holocaust survivor as well, one of the few remaining Holocaust survivors. And yet she's an incredible optimist. And I really am looking forward to hearing her speak. So I just wanted to let you all know about that. And so I think, thank you all again. And Kim, thank you so much. I hope everyone will email you and go to your website. And look at some of her amazing photos. I see Georgina has her hand up. So if there's a quick question Mary and Georgina want to ask.
Actually, I'm just giving you I'm clapping my hands.
Okay.
Oh, okay, great. And I
It's
think
an
Mary Hansen was
applause. I'm applauding.
all right, so everyone's applauding you. Big hand for Kim. So thank you all. I'm going to end our wonderful meeting today. Bye,
Thank you very
everyone.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.